Hi, this is David Thornburg, President and CEO of the Committee of 70. Welcome to another edition of Studio C70, where we have a chance on an occasional basis to talk to folks locally and around the country who are involved in various efforts to strengthen our local democracy. And I'm pleased today to be joined by Commissioner Lisa Deeley. Lisa, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Just so all of you know, if you didn't, Commissioner Deeley is chair of the Office of City Commissioners here in Philadelphia. Her colleagues are Al Schmidt and Omar Sabir, and they are charged with the monumental task of running elections here in Philadelphia, which, as we'll talk, has taken on a special challenge here in 2020. But Lisa, let's just start with a little bit of your background. I know you have a long history of working in constituent service and in customer service. I have to give you credit. I know you have been very energetic in making sure that you reach out to voters and communicate with folks. And back in the old days, go to community events and so forth. And here you are on the virtual world. But is that what drew you into an interest in serving as a city commissioner?
Yeah, it all stemmed from that. My first elected office was 18. I ran for judge of elections. I wanted to be the committee person. My mom was the committee person, and she said, before you run for committee person, you should run for something on the board so that you can really understand what's actually going on with regard to elections. So at her suggestion, I ran for judge of elections at 18 and I won. And I served that post for a term. And then I ran for committee person, a post that I held from the time I was 21 for over 30 years. I was a committee person. And I also was really involved in my neighborhood. There's a youth athletic organization in my neighborhood that I'm heavily involved in. And I'm just, I really am a firm believer in just doing everything you can to help your community. And I thought that the best way for me to do that would be to get involved. My mother was involved politically and my grandfather before her. So it was just a natural progression for me. I worked for a time at Acme, like a true Philadelphian.
Right.
I worked at Acme for a while, where I had various customer service roles that I really enjoyed, and I was able to get an opportunity to work for a local elected official in my neighborhood, which really drew me to the roots of my community, because I found myself going to more meetings, civic meetings, town watch meetings, helping people get traffic lights installed, or what's going on, why isn't my trash getting picked up? And I really honed my skills for just being somebody that was tenacious and was able to get things done. From there, I went and worked for the city controller in the first of its kind community affairs office. The controller's office in Philadelphia had never had that before. And it really was an opportunity for me then to broaden what I was doing constituent service wise throughout the whole city. And it really expanded my territory. And I got to really engage with a lot of people throughout the city. I love that. So naturally, that was always in the back of my mind that, this city is so unique, and I would love so much to find a way to be active in representing it.
Yeah, and now you have that.
Yeah.
You were elected to your second term, seems like a million years ago in 2019.
Yes.
Right? And I'm going to guess that not in your wildest dreams did you think you would have the challenge in front of you that you have right now.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, it is, with every passing day, it just gets more and more unbelievable. I mean, after the election that we stood up in June, that was unbelievable until we think about November and we recognize just what basically we're going to be holding two simultaneous elections, one election which will be by mail and one which will be in person.
Yeah.
With seeing like 300,000 people, 350 350 voters in both categories. I really think it's going to be something.
Nobody's ever faced that challenge in Philadelphia or maybe anywhere. That's probably an understatement, right?
I thank you for recognizing that. And even if they have, they certainly haven't faced a challenge in such a short window of time to prepare.
Yeah.
I mean, when we look at other municipalities and other places where they're voting by mail in these kind of numbers, it's been a progression that's taken 5, 7, even 10 years in some instances. So the fact that the legislature just late last year enabled Pennsylvanians to vote by mail without an excuse, and now suddenly we are doing it as a matter of life and safety, health and safety. It's amazing that that this is where we're at, but it is, and we are up for the challenge.
Yeah. You and I were talking about it earlier, but one of the things that maybe a lot of folks don't recognize is that, maybe twice as many people will vote in November as voted in June. And a lot of those people may not have voted since the last presidential election. So that compounds the challenge, doesn't it?
Oh, it's a huge challenge. There are a large segment of voters that only vote in a presidential election. So if you're one of those voters right now in Philadelphia, the last time you went to vote in 2016, you voted on a different voting system, and you were able to go in and vote straight party if that's what you wanted to do. So now if you're one of those voters that hasn't voted since 2016, you're going to go in to vote, hopefully in a polling location that you recognize, but there's a good possibility that it won't be. So it could very well be a different polling location. There's a new voting system, and when you go to vote straight party, it's not an option for you. So I think that's going to cause a lot of confusion, and it's just another pressure on our already burdened poll workers, who are really the heroes. All the work that we do back here in the commissioner's office is really comes down to what the poll workers, what our neighbors do on election day, that really make elections work.
We've done, I don't know if you saw this, we've done a couple interviews the last few weeks with poll workers, just to sort of bring out how important their contribution is, and we'll hope to do some more of those. So the other thing about this election, which I'm sure you noticed, is a lot of people are paying attention. This might be, a lot of folks say, the most consequential presidential race in maybe the history of the country, maybe at least in a long time, in the midst of a pandemic and economic recession. And, so they started paying particular attention to Pennsylvania. I know you were quoted in the New York Times Magazine story a couple of months ago. So not to add to the pressure, but a lot of folks are watching what happens in Philadelphia.
Yeah, everybody's watching what's happening in Pennsylvania. And as you said, the pandemic, the economic crisis, there's social issues that we're dealing with. And the fact that people are home and they are spending more time on social media is also increasing people's interest and awareness about elections. So, we are aware, acutely aware of the laser focus that is on Pennsylvania and its importance, just in this presidential election, regardless of what side you're on. We need to be able to, assure that the vote in Philadelphia is, everybody was able to vote. There was integrity in the process. It was counted in as fast a way as possible. The numbers are accurate, and move on to the electoral college, or and be able to give people results that they can rely on.
Yeah. Now, maybe none of my business, but do you sleep at night?
Not really, because you mentioned earlier that we, part of my passion is the community outreach, and we're unable to do that, face to face, but I am on this Zoom. I spend a lot of time on Zoom, or Microsoft Teams, or in a conference call. I mean, we're just trying to do everything I can to keep communicating with voters that they should vote by mail if they're any way unsure, or if they feel unsafe about voting in person. If they are going to vote in person, they should definitely make a plan. As we get closer to election day, they should take the time to find out where their polling location is, because it may change. It may have changed since the last time they voted. And really just be prepared there to pack your patience. I tell that to everybody all the time before election day. Pack your patience and be nice to your poll workers.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
neighbors.
If there are parts of this challenge that keep you up at night, what are they? What are the things that make you toss and turn that you worry?
I worry about the expectation, especially the expectation for the results. I mean, especially in Philadelphia, the commissioner's office had really, even before I got here, they had really moved the ball on their website and the information that went out to the public as far as election results. And people love that. People love to be able to go on Philly Votes at the end of the night and watch the numbers come in and be able to, you know, pretty assuredly say, you know, who's a winner and who's a loser. Even myself as a candidate, it's, you know, election night, I knew, you know, how I did. And I think we have to manage that expectation because the world has changed. And that is not, you know, although everybody's working as hard as they can to get these results back as quick as possible. We just saw in New York, they were still counting 3 weeks later. I mean, it's a new reality. And I think that that's going to be a big deal on election day, especially in Philadelphia, because even people in other elected offices and people that have been involved in this process for a long time are having a hard time reconciling the fact that it's different now because votes are coming at us in a different fashion.
Are you ready to go out on a limb and give us some prediction about when you think the count would be completed this time around?
I don't want to go out on a limb, but I will say that we are doing everything we can on the back end to make sure that we do it as quickly and as accurately as possible. So, I mean, I don't foresee, I can't really say, because as you know, Dave, 90% of that is going to depend on the legislature. Right now, we can't start doing anything with the ballots till election day. And if we're standing up an in-person election on election day, that's pretty much occupies all our time.
Yeah.
So if there is presently legislation pending in the House and the Senate to allow us to begin earlier to canvass. So if that becomes law, that would help us out tremendously.
That's number one on your wish list for the legislature is
I would say that is number one on the wish list because it automatically alleviates a lot of pressure, and it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be something that should be, and everybody, regardless of your party, everybody should want that. Everybody should want us, and not just us, but everybody in Pennsylvania, to be able to get that counted as accurately, as quickly as possible.
But it won't be at 8:01 on election night.
Oh, no, it won't be. And it won't be 11 o'clock on election night, you know? I mean, and you know yourself, I'm sure you spent many election night like I have watching the returns come in. I mean, we do it as a nation, right? We watch television, we watch CNN or ABC, and we watch the polls, the results, and it's going to be quite different in November.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, we're talking about this before we started, about your team, the staff of your staff and other commissioners. I know because we've been working with you, you spent some time trying to figure out what the lessons were from June 2nd and how that turns into a to-do list that you've got to execute really fast to turn around for November 3rd. So what's on the to-do list, and say something about, the people that you have working on this in the process.
So we recognize that June, we needed to make there's some areas of improvement, and we're always looking to improve. So, what we did was we put some administrative oversight over the three pieces that we thought were most crucial to making sure November goes smooth. The first one is the polling locations. So in June, the legislature granted us the authority to consolidate polling locations. We don't believe that that will come to pass for November, just because the presidential general is such a different election with regards to turnout and such. So we are planning on holding an election where the divisions each stand up on their own. But we will recognize that we can't go back into a lot of the places that we were in November of 19, right? Because of the COVID.
So
So we
first
have-
order of business is locking down those polling
so
locations.
we're locking down polling locations.
Yeah.
We are also going through our poll worker list. We didn't use as many poll workers in June as we will in November. So we're using our old lists and we're calling everybody to see who's willing to work and who isn't. So we have time, and time is really our friend that we didn't have in June. And then we are also looking at what are all the pieces we need to put in place to be able to get these mail ballots out to the voters, get them back and get them counted. And we are so fortunate that we have great deputies in all our staffs that are so committed to our own success, but also to the process. And Philadelphians really should rest assured that we have some of the best minds in the city working on this to get this done.
I'm trying to remember the increase in mail ballots from that you saw in June compared to 16 was something like 20 times as great.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but for some reason, the number is that I remember it was somewhere around 13,000 in the primary, and we saw like 170,000.
Okay, so maybe 12 times. It's only 12
Yeah.
times. As many.
Yeah, only 12, only
Yeah.
12 in a pandemic.
Yeah. And then that'll only increase likely in the fall, though it's a little hard to tell how many people will vote by mail.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll at least double.
Yeah.
Just because the turnout it's such a different election. Like I said, more people participate.
So all of a sudden you're running a mail house.
Yeah, so we need to start thinking more like the revenue department.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about the amount of mail that's going out and coming in, we are that's actually what we're looking at. We're looking at standing up a mail house.
Yeah.
Because we expect that this trend will suddenly fade off. I mean, once people start to vote by mail, it's likely that they will continue to do so.
Yeah. And I know a few weeks back, you and Commissioner Sabir and some of your staff did a little whirlwind trip to Denver. And did you go to Detroit then, or?
We were in Detroit in mid-March.
Yeah.
Right before we were stay-at-home order, and then we went to Colorado a few weeks ago and Orange County, California.
And what were your big takeaways? What do they do that we ought to be really hustling up on?
They have a lot more staff. What they did in Denver was amazing. I mean, but they have a lot of equipment, a lot of space, and they just really take a unique approach to it where everybody everybody is aware that it's election day and that whole county is all working together. And we were fortunate that we saw that in June in Philadelphia. We had a lot of help from other departments, and we're hoping that we can replicate that for November, even in a greater number. I would say that, their ability to get those ballots out and use that equipment, seeing that in action, it was really something. I like to go to these places, with the exception of Orange County. I like to go on election day because really what I found when I went to New York, I went to Chicago a couple years back. When you go and it is an election day, it'd be like somebody coming to Philly and it's not election day. Everything sounds wonderful. Right? Everything they have. Oh, that's great. We should do that. But then when you go and you actually see it, you can look at it and say, well, that would never work for Philadelphia, or that really would work. So I find that going on election day is really productive. So it's good to go out on the primary days because it's good to see a lot of this stuff in action.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's kind of like showing up at the stadium when nobody's playing football.
Right. Exactly.
There's only so much you can learn. Well, I know I told you I'd only keep you for about 20 minutes, but let me just end with this question. So 10 years from now, if you're looking back on this election and you're sitting around with some friends or relatives or neighbors, what would you like to be able to say to them about this election?
Well, I'll keep the politics out of it, but besides that, I would like to say that, I can't believe that we were able to stand up such an incredible election in all those challenges, and everybody voted, and there was no trouble, and we got an accurate count out, quicker than anybody ever thought, and it was great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, as I said earlier, there are an awful lot of folks focusing on Philadelphia, and that's only going to intensify between now and November. But I know there are an awful lot of folks that want you to succeed, us
Thank you.
because we're all Philadelphians. And as you said, no matter what the outcome, we got to make sure that we pull this off to the best of our ability. So I thank you and your staff for doing everything that you do to make.
And we
that.
appreciate the opportunity to work with you and all the help that you're giving us too. And I think, we've been saying this a lot this season, but we are all in this together. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you soon.